The world around us thrives on distraction, and it's getting harder to think past our daily routines. Most of us rarely stop to ask where our lives are actually heading. Between Instagram, YouTube, and 1,000 other interruptions, we move from one moment to the next without noticing how each action shapes the future. Take this video as a wake-up call and pause for a moment. Look back at your past week and try to recall every single hour as clearly as you can. As you do this, also imagine what a perfect week would look like, a truly productive one. By the end of this little reflection, you'll realize just how many things you did that you probably shouldn't have done. To understand how these behaviors, the ones you've noticed and know you shouldn't be doing, take shape, I want to use this video to explore how our good and bad habits shape our lives. But as an education brand, we'll look at these habits specifically through the lens of learning and personal growth. By the way, I'm the founder of this brand. True to our vision, we don't just provide technical training in artificial intelligence. We also care deeply about personal development, which is why we talk about topics like this. Because we know that success in professional life depends not only on technical knowledge, but also on personal growth. We're going to approach this topic through the idea of routine. But to understand routine, we first need to define what a habit is. A habit is a behavior repeated so often that it becomes governed by the subconscious rather than conscious effort. This allows the brain, which has limited energy and focus, to reserve more of its resources for the deliberate decisions it must make throughout the day. Take driving as an example. For someone just learning, every action during the first few weeks happens entirely at the conscious level. Shifting gears, turning the wheel, signaling, all of it requires active thought. But over time, these movements become automatic, and the driver can perform them almost without thinking. When habits are viewed within the framework of daily life, we call them a routine. A routine is a set of sequential actions we carry out regularly each day. While the word might sound dull to many, it's actually a critical element of success. That's why anyone determined to move steadily toward their goals needs to build a routine aligned with that direction. Let's say your goal is to become an AI engineer. If you set out on that path, but notice in your phone's digital well-being report that you're spending 6 to 7 hours a day on your device, caught up in distractions and time-wasting activities, reaching your goal may take far longer than you expect. Even though I try to avoid generalizations, I can safely say this for this scenario. If you cut your daily phone use by 4 to 5 hours and stay away from distracting tasks or environments, you could get at least 10 times closer to your goal. Another key factor is the size of your goal, how far you currently are from it, and how well your routine aligns with it. If your goal is big, your routine needs to be tighter and more productivity focused. And if your goal is both big and still far away, you'll need to raise your focus even higher and cut compromises down to almost zero. That said, there's an important truth to remember. No one can live like a machine. That's why it's more sustainable to treat these intense routines as short, focused camps that you enter for specific periods, rather than something you try to maintain forever. Let's practice this together. If possible, open a notes app or grab a pen and paper. Write down your answers to the questions I'm about to ask. Here we go. What are your current good habits? Your current bad habits? If you had to define your routine, how would you describe a typical day? Your answers here give us the current situation. Now let's set our North Star, the destination you want to reach. What is your main career goal? How far are you from it? Please write your answers in as much detail as you can. Pause the video if needed, and don't rush. Now, with the information you've just written down, we're going to build the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. To give you a clearer analogy, we'll figure out how to repair the broken sections and tighten the loose bolts on that bridge, so we can create a stronger, more reliable path forward. To start, we first need to revisit some definitions. Let's begin by defining and illustrating what a bad routine looks like. A bad routine is simply a routine where your habits and your goals don't align. The definition itself doesn't necessarily include bad habits, but if a routine contains habits that work against your goals, it becomes destructive, and that's why we classify it as a bad routine. The effects of such a routine can be seen both in the short and long term. For example, if you make scrolling through Reels a habit before starting work or a study session, your focus during that session will suffer. That scattered attention reduces both how much you learn and how well the information sticks. A few days later, you'll only half remember what you studied. And if you have an exam the following week, this incomplete learning will most likely show up as poor performance. If we stretch this effect to a larger scale, your grades may start to drop over time. Later, when you apply for a job, you could be overlooked simply because other candidates have stronger academic records. This chain of consequences might push you toward working at a company you don't want, leaving you in an environment and culture you dislike, and earning less than you had envisioned. I know this example sounds a bit bleak and rests on many assumptions. In real life, of course, you might encounter opportunities that break this chain and set things right, or just as easily, events that make the journey even more challenging. The more you hold on to good habits, the less likely you are to stumble, and the greater your chances of moving steadily in the right direction. Along the way, doors you never expected can start to open. This is a classic example of the compound effect, or what some call the butterfly effect. Notice how I illustrated that even something as small as checking your phone before starting work can logically set the stage for missing out on the job you want. Now, imagine spending 6 or 7 hours a day on your phone, and think about all the opportunities you might be quietly letting slip away. In the previous section, we talked about bad routines. Bad routines are all about negative habits sneaking into our days and undermining our potential. Interestingly, good routines are often defined not so much by the presence of good habits, but by the absence of bad ones. For example, if you train yourself to resist the urge to check your phone whenever you feel bored, even turning doing nothing into a habit, you're actually creating a positive outcome simply by eliminating the negative. In a similar way, if you stop scrolling through short videos on social media, your daily motivation naturally rises because you're no longer chasing cheap dopamine. Each study session ends with a greater sense of satisfaction, and you feel a stronger, more vibrant energy in your everyday life. This shift benefits not only your educational goals, but also your physical and social ones. It's striking how interconnected everything really is. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, our daily lives are filled with so many distractions that we rarely even stop to question them. Yet noticing and correcting just one negative habit can have a profoundly positive impact on your entire life. Now we can start building the bridge. As you've probably noticed, this bridge is really a metaphor for your routine. If your routine is poor, the bridge is full of cracks and weak spots. If your routine is strong, those cracks are repaired and the structure is reinforced. As we talk about how to repair this bridge, I'll share the principles I learned from Atomic Habits, ideas I've personally applied to create major changes in my own life. If you haven't read this book yet, I can't recommend it enough. If you were to read just one book on personal development, this would be the one. I want to highlight the 2 principles that have been the most impactful in my own life. The first is to make bad habits harder to carry out by removing the triggers that prompt them in the first place. The second is the opposite. Make good habits as easy as possible by adding helpful reminders and cues. Even if you forget everything else from the book, these 2 principles are worth keeping in your pocket. Let's start with the idea of a trigger. It's easier to explain with a concrete example. Picture a study environment. On your desk you have a laptop, a notebook, a pen, a glass of water, and your phone. If the phone is within sight, your hand will almost instinctively reach for it. That tiny distraction alone can interrupt your entire work session. Let's say you toss the phone onto a chair behind you. Then a notification sound goes off, pulling your attention back. You get up to check it, and before you know it, you're lost in your phone again. These are triggers. Visual, auditory, or even abstract cues that draw you toward a bad habit. If something brings a negative habit to mind and nudges you to act on it, it's a trigger. Phone notifications, having your phone in plain view, or hearing it buzz are all triggers that can derail a focused study session. Making a bad habit hard to carry out is essentially sending a message to your subconscious that says, "Don't bother, it's too much trouble." For example, if you can't stop checking your phone while studying, put it in a locked cabinet 100 meters away. The effort required to get up and fetch it will dramatically reduce the urge. An even stronger method is to hand your phone to someone you trust and tell them, "No matter what I say, don't give this back to me until I'm done." Your brain then registers checking the phone as nearly impossible, allowing your focus to stay entirely on the study session. With good habits, the approach is the exact opposite. Let's say you want to boost your daily energy and discover that you're not drinking enough water. To build this habit, you could set 4 reminders a day on your phone that say, "Refill your bottle and put it on the desk." Each reminder acts as a trigger, prompting you to refill and drink without needing conscious effort. Over time, these small cues help the act of refilling and drinking water become automatic, until the habit sticks, even without the notification. I think the philosophy is clear by now. breaking bad habits comes down to removing triggers and making the action harder to perform. Let me share a personal example. My process for quitting the habit of scrolling through Reels was surprisingly simple. I deleted the Instagram app, and for over a year now have only logged in occasionally through a browser. Because the browser experience is deliberately clunky to push you back toward the app, it actually worked in my favor. That small design inconvenience became my advantage, and it helped me break the habit for good. I hope this video has been helpful to you, because while preparing this script, I also re-examined my own habits, and that process was a valuable experience for me as well. My wish is that it sparked a similar awareness in you and inspired you to take a positive step forward. As I mentioned earlier, we'll continue sharing content like this on this channel. At A Sip of AI, while we provide top-tier technical training in artificial intelligence through our education packages, we also use this space to cover personal growth and soft skill topics, creating an opportunity for well-rounded development. If you'd like to see more videos like this, don't forget to share it with us in the comments. And if there are specific topics you'd like us to cover, let us know. If you're interested in artificial intelligence and thinking about building a career in this field, our paid training packages are always an option. But what I highly recommend is taking advantage of the free resources we offer. Our blog posts, Instagram updates, YouTube videos, and community channels are all there for you to explore. If you're ready to take your learning a step further and can commit the necessary time, I recommend considering our paid programs. You can find all the links related to our brand in the bio or the description below. See you in the next video, and until then, take care.